As the team Terrapin has selected to continue on to help further their sustainability methods, we undertook a detailed examination of several of Terrapin's aspects, including both social and technical contexts. We began our analysis of Terrapin by interviewing Mark Harris, Terrapin's production manager and plant engineer. He gave us valuable insight to the specific processes that Terrapin carries out to brew their beer. As we introduce each step of the process, we will discuss the ingredients and materials involved and how they are used. After we detail the steps in the brewing process, we will go back and evaluate the costs associated with the process as a whole. The first step in the brewing process is mashing. However, before mashing, the barley is cracked as it goes through the auger into the malting house. Once the barley is cracked, it's called grist, and the sugars in the barley are exposed, which is later valuable in fermentation. Mashing is the process through which water and the malted barley are mixed. The barley that Terrapin uses comes from Canada and Germany. After mashing comes the watering process, which uses the husk from the barley as a natural filter. The mixture of water and barley is refiltered through again and again to remove cloudiness and fine particles. Once the mixture is completely filtered, it is called wort. The next step in the process is boiling the wort and adding in hops. Boiling concentrates the sugar in the wort before fermentation. Boiling reduces the volume of the wort, making it more concentrated. For a typical batch of Terrapin, the boiling process reduces the wort from around 33 to 26 barrels. After the wort is boiled, it is sent to the whirlpool, which separates the hops and the wort. This process only takes about 18 minutes. When coming out of the whirlpool, the wort goes through a plate heat exchanger. Glycol from the chiller goes through the plate heat exchanger while the hot liquor is passed through, cooling it down to prepare for fermentation. The fermenting process is a delicate one due to the temperature needs of the yeast involved. Terrapin uses an ale strain yeast which works at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The wort must be cooled before fermentation because the yeast are very sensitive to temperatures. Terrapin uses a Siemens system along with dimple jackets to keep the liquid regulated at the right temperature for the yeast to function. If the temperature is too low, the yeast will die and the beer is ruined. If the temperature is too high, the beer tastes off in flavor. After fermenting, the beer is immature and needs time to condition to become more microbiologically stable and to produce a more finished product. Although by this time most of the yeast has been drastically reduced through conditioning, the beer must be filtered once more to remove any residual yeast and any unwanted solids or residue that has formed. After the final filtration, the beer is finally ready to be bottled. The most crucial step in bottling is to remove all of the oxygen from the inside of the bottle. This is done by filling the bottle with CO2 and beer simultaneously so that there is no room for oxygen and carbonation isn't lost. Terrapin gets their bottles from Owens, Illinois, and 38% of the glass bottles are from recycled material. Terrapin packages their bottles in boxes from the Rock, Tennessee company in Tennessee. Terrapin beer has been distributed in numerous states throughout the eastern United States. Their beer has been sold in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. Terrapin is continuously shipped to 9 different distribution centers in South Carolina and 8 different distribution centers in Georgia. Now that we have detailed Terrapin's brewing process, we will evaluate the costs associated with this process as a whole. The ingredients needed to brew Terrapin's beer are fairly cost-intensive, with the most expensive ingredient being the hops, costing about $850 for a 44-pound box. 1,500 pounds of malted barley are needed per batch that Terrapin produces, which is also an expensive ingredient that is imported from either Canada or Germany. Yeast, however, is less costly for Terrapin because they are able to reuse it again and again. The brewing process for Terrapin is very labor-intensive, making labor their highest expense. Another cost that Terrapin manages is the power that they use to run their machinery and light their brewery. Recently, however, Terrapin replaced their old overhead lighting with new T5 lighting, which provides more light to their brewery at half the cost. While water is Terrapin's cheapest ingredient, each batch, which is about 25 barrels, uses 900 gallons of water, making it a crucial one. Machinery, while not a daily cost, was a considerable one when starting the brewery. Also, as Terrapin looks to expand and add larger tanks, which are estimated at hundreds of thousands each, they will have to consider the trade-offs of initial investment and long-term payoff. The main cost in packaging comes from the purchased bottles and boxes, which Terrapin gets from Owens, Illinois and Rock, Tennessee company respectively. After examining Terrapin's internal processes and costs, we further analyzed their social context within the Athens community. Terrapin is very involved with local businesses in Athens, many times forming relationships and marketing themselves through these businesses. One example of this is Luna Baking Company. Terrapin donates their spent grain to Luna, which they then use to make bread. This is a mutualistic relationship benefiting both companies, Luna through free ingredients and Terrapin through free advertising and notable sustainability methods. Terrapin Bread, as it was named, is distributed to 4 local businesses: the Trapeze Pub, Farm 255, the Daily Co-op, and Earth Fair. This local distribution reinforces Terrapin's social relationships within the Athens community. For the actual beer, Terrapin is sold in many bars and restaurants in Athens. To get a more detailed understanding of Terrapin's relationships with local Athens businesses, we interviewed several stakeholders. One of these stakeholders was Corey Ripley, who is the general manager of Polly's Crepe Bar, The Loft, and Magnolia's Bar. One of the ways that his business interacts with Terrapin is by having Terrapin Tuesdays at Polly's Crepe Bar, where they offer $2 Terrapin beer. Interviewing him provided us with an understanding of how Terrapin has come to flourish in the local economy and how they interact with small businesses to increase profits for both of the parties involved.
Catching your feet, set you flying.